No one is a prophet in their own home. That is an entirely accurate statement. When you're with people who have pretty much known you all of your life, a degree of objectivity is lost as a result. So even if you're being perfectly clear and reasonable, even if you are 100% right in this case, that message will have a harder time getting through to people who are closest to you. That's something that happens with all of us. We can't really help it. We can't help but prejudge when that sort of thing happens. And that, by the way, is where the word prejudice comes from. Judging another beforehand without thought, knowledge, or reason. That's what the word means. So it means being against someone or something for a specific logical reason is not prejudice. Okay? I am not prejudiced against people who wear two different kinds of plaid at the same time. Okay? I know that that goes against some pretty basic rules of fashion. It's not prejudice. That's a talk for another time, by the way. But you can think of prejudice as like having an opinion of a book that you've never read. Someone else can have the exact same opinion as you, but if they've read the book, then it's not prejudice. They might still be wrong or unreasonable, but they're not prejudging the book because they read it. So again, prejudice is prejudging. Now, practically, we use that word prejudice when we prejudge people who are different from us, whether that be race, religion, or lifestyle. But prejudice can happen in the exact opposite way just as easily. We can show prejudice toward those we know the best and have the most in common with. And that is the problem that Jesus ran into today. Hey, Jesus, we've known you since childhood. You might sound wise, but we know who you really are. So why don't you prove to us that you're more than we think you are? That's prejudice. And that happens all the time. I'm sure you've heard this quote before, that doctors make the worst patients. And that's true more often than not. A doctor has a good chance of getting sick and diagnosing themselves. I'll be fine, I know my own body. And it's almost a little funny to be in the room when another doctor has to tell them, Bob, you're really sick. Stay in bed and take your medicine and stop contradicting me. For the time being, I am your doctor. Those are always amusing conversations when you get to just spy on two doctors talking like that. And I'm not picking on doctors. This happens with every profession in its own way. It is the prejudice of familiarity. You think you know something, so you judge it before you really hear what's going on. And sadly, not even Jesus has an easy answer for this issue. In the gospel, when Jesus started getting pushback from his fellows in Nazareth, he gave them one last chance to see reason. He made his argument clearly, and he did not back down. And the people did not heed him, and they tried to drive him out of the village by violence. They tried to throw him over a cliff. And at that point, Jesus, he really had no other choice but to leave and move on and find others that were more open to his message. And that's sad. You know, Jesus probably didn't return again to Nazareth after that point in the story. So the point of this part of the gospel is, it's a little gloomy, but it's important to understand. You can't force other people to see things your way. even if you're being perfectly clear and reasonable, even if you're 100% right this time, you can't force other people to agree with you. It doesn't work that way. That is the part of communication that belongs to them, no matter how wise or foolish they might be. And even Jesus had to accept that every once in a while and move on. Now, mind you, this does not mean that we're powerless. While we can't control the reactions of others, we can nevertheless control our own reactions and curb our own prejudices in life, and we all have them. We all have plenty of work to do in that way. But if we're mindful, wise, and intentional about our self-improvement in here, we can certainly be the sorts of people who are capable of receiving and hearing a true prophet from our own town or even our own family.